squared b plus ab squared. I'm going to start with this one. Negative 2 times a squared is going to be negative 2ba squared. And then you have plus 6ab squared. And then you have their last term, it's going to be minus 2b cubed. Okay. And then you're going to look for your like terms. Okay. So I see I have this term and this term are like terms. And this term and this term are like terms, right? So I've got my a cubed. That's not an a. I've got my a cubed. And then I'm going to say, okay, negative 3a squared b plus negative 2a squared b is going to be negative 5. A squared b, right? Then I have these two like terms. So ab squared plus 6ab squared is going to be plus 7ab squared. And then we got that last term in the end. And here's your answer. All righty. So scrolling on. Any questions here? $38. Okay, so zoom in here so I can write neatly. 38. I've got 6v cubed plus 7v squared minus 7, close parentheses, minus 4v, that's 4v plus 6v squared minus 2v cubed plus 3v squared minus 8v plus 2. Okay. The first thing I would do here is do this right here. All of that on the inside, okay? So if I've got 6v cubed plus 7v squared minus 7, then I have to distribute this negative to get rid of those parentheses. So I'm going to say, okay, minus 4v minus 6v squared plus 2v cubed, which ultimately is going to give me, okay, I've got these like terms. I've got this one, these two, and I believe that is it. So I've got 8v cubed, okay, plus b squared minus 4b minus 7. Is there a way I can make this skinnier? Yes. Okay.
You touch the pen. There you go.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. All righty. So I've got that, right? But don't forget we have this negative out here, right? So before I add this part to this part, I got to distribute that negative. So negative 8v cubed plus v squared minus 4v minus 7. That's going to give me negative 8v cubed minus v squared plus 4v minus 7. So I have this, and now I can add it to the other one, right? So I've got negative 8v cubed minus v squared plus 4v minus 7 plus 3v squared minus 8v plus 2. And if I get my like terms together, I've got a negative 8v cubed, and it looks like it's the only one there. I've got a negative v squared. I've got a positive 3v squared. I have a 4v and a negative 8v, and I have a negative 7 and a positive 2. So I'm just going to leave that negative 8v cubed the same. Okay, 3v squared plus negative v squared is going to be positive 2v squared. Okay. Positive 4v plus negative 8v is going to give me negative 4v. And negative 7 plus 2 is going to give me negative 5. And there is your answer. Okay, cool.
All right.
So,
Let's see, can we move on to the next page?
yep.
Very good.
Okay. We can only,
Why is the 7 still negative?
where?
Zoom in.
Oh, okay, this is supposed to be positive 7, guys. So instead of, thank you. So instead of minus 7 plus 2, it's gonna be just regular 7 plus 2, which is gonna give you plus 9. That is your answer. Thank you, Dr. Blue.
Thank Edward.
Edward, thank you, Edward. All righty. So, okay, on to the next page. We can only probably do maybe
1 or 2.
1 or 2 on this one because we're on time. So, any here?
Which one looks the scariest? Pick one.
65.
Don't you dare.
That's not too bad. What about 73?
So
We
we
did
did-
that one.
Oh,
earlier.
if they don't pick, then move on.
Okay, all righty, we're just gonna move on.
Oh, 65.
Oh,
Earl saved the day.
Earl said-
That
that is one.
It's like AC, that's like at the last bit of AC. We're just gonna take this.
You know what to do, why don't you go for it?
All right, so,
Okay, I'll switch for a second.
so on 65. We have x squared is x squared plus 4 squared plus 2 x squared plus 4 squared. So when we look at this, we can actually factor out these into squared plus 4 squared, and then we have these left over. So that's just gonna give us an x squared plus 2. And this is our answer.
I'm ready. You guys okay on that? All righty then. Okay, so since nobody else said anything, I'm just gonna move on. Okay. Complex numbers.
Any questions you need to see worked out on this page? 79. All right.
Okay. All righty, so 79 says A plus 3I equals 15 minus B. Oh, yeah.
Dr. Blue, do you have a?
What's that asking?
It's like what values of
A
B
and
and I
B
for A and B.
to make it true?
Oh, shoot.
For that, I guess you just say come to the tutoring center.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a long one.
Yeah, so bless your heart. This is a long one. Okay, so I'm gonna say come to the MSTC to figure this one out. Let us chew on it for a minute, okay? So yeah, if you don't mind.
If we have time, we can come back to this one at the
Yeah,
end.
if we have time, we'll come back to it. But as for right now, it's gonna take us a little while to figure it out and we're kind of crunched on time. So it would probably be best if we just come back to this later or you come by the MSTC. So we will. Go ahead and. I'm just gonna go on. Okay. So. Now you're on 3.1. Actually, the whole other two ones. Sure. Okay. So I'm gonna hand it off to Maddie. She's gonna do 3.1. Yeah, and just go for it. So.
All right, so do we have any questions on this first page, 1 through 6? Number 6, okay. Determine whether the function is quadratic. If it is, determine whether the graph is concave up or concave down, and then determine whether the vertex of the graph is a maximum point or a minimum point. So number 6, determine whether the function is quadratic. So because we have this x squared right here, it is quadratic. So yes, it is quadratic. B is determine whether the graph is concave up or concave down. So this negative right here tells us that the graph of this function is going to look something like this. Since it's negative, it's going to go downwards on both sides, which is telling us that that is concave down. And then C, determine whether the vertex of the graph is a maximum point or a minimum point. So since the graph looks something like this, like we said, we are actually going to have a maximum point. And that's all because of this negative right here. That's what tells us that it is concave down and that there is going to be a maximum. All right, do we have any more questions? All right, so we're going to move on to if it's a minimum, is it positive? Yes. So for example, like number 4, since that is positive, that graph will look something like this, which means it will have a minimum. Does that make sense? Okay. So do we have any questions on this page, 7 through 12 or number 15?
Yeah, so on the calculator questions, guys, like 7 through 12, it talks about the window and stuff. Come by the MSTC, we'll show you how to do that.
All right, so number 15, write the equation of the quadratic function whose graph is shown. So for number 15, we're given 2 points. One, we're given the vertex, and then we're given some other point. So we're going to start off with this equation right here, which tells us that y equals a times x minus h squared plus k, where this h and k is the vertex. And so our vertex, h comma k, is 2 comma negative 4. So we're going to say y equals is x minus 2 squared plus that negative 4. And then we're going to plug in this other point that we're given, this 4 comma 0, to find this a value. So if we're using 4 comma 0, then we're going to plug in 0 for the y. We're trying to find this a value, and then that x value is going to be a 4. And then we're going to solve for that a value. So we're going to get 0 equals a times, and 4 minus 2 is 2, 2 squared is 4. So a times 4 minus 4, and then finishing off, we are going to get 4 equals 4a and a equals 1. So plugging that back in, we are going to have y equals x minus 2 squared minus 4. And this is going to be our equation of this graph. All right. So now we're going to move on to page 11. Do you guys have any questions about this section? So these are actually calculator questions, I believe. So for these, if you guys have any questions on these problems, please come to the MSTC.
Got 79 and 80 figured out if you want to go back.
79, 80.
Yeah.
Okay.
Page 8.
Page 8. So we're gonna go back to page 8 and answer the question from earlier.
All right, so I haven't figured out 78 quite yet, but on 79 and 80, there's actually a quick way to work through this. If you look at a plus 3i equals 15 minus bi, notice that we're trying to figure out what values of a and what values of b are going to make this true. And so if we just match these and say, well, a equals 15, and in this case, we see negative b equals 3. And so if negative b equals 3, then we could say b equals negative 3. That is the best way to accomplish both 79 and 80. And so notice with 80, a plus bi equals 2 plus 4i. We could do the same process again by saying, all right, b is going to match up to 4 and a is going to match up to 2. All right, so that's how you strategize to get 79 and 80. 78 is a little bit more complicated because there's a wider variety of numbers that would work, but that's the basic strategy. All right, questions on that one? All right, feel free to go back to where you were.
All right, so we were. So we were gonna skip past page 11 and yeah, so all of this is also going to be calculator graphing problems. So same for these problems. If you guys have any questions over these, please come to the Math Tutoring Center.
It's Wallace 342, by the way.
All right, so same with these. We're gonna skip past page 13 too. Do you guys have any questions over this page? $51. Okay, so we're gonna skip over part.
You can't. 2030.
So we can do part B. Part A is also gonna be a graphing calculator problem, but we can go through B if you want. So if we want to find the global biometrics revenue projected by this model for 2030, first we're going to look at what X is. So this says that X is the number of years after 2015. So if we're trying to find for the year 2030, then X is going to equal 15. Yeah. So now we're just going to plug that into our equation. So y equals 0.143 times 15 squared minus 0.259 times 15 plus 2 2.333.
We'll get there, guys. Okay, 10, 15. Squared. Minus 0.259 times 15. Plus 2.333.
And so our y is gonna equal 30.623. And so y is equal to the revenue in billions of dollars. So for it wants the global biometrics revenue, it's gonna be somewhere around 30.623 billions. Billions. All right.
Moving right along.
So 73 is gonna be very similar to that question. So now we're gonna move through section 3.2. I'm gonna hand this over to Laura.
Okay, do we have any questions on this? So 3, I'm gonna move down to the bottom here. 3 is x squared minus 11x plus 24 equals 0. And so we're gonna use the AC method. So I'm gonna move over here. So if we know that, it's gonna be A times C on one side and then B on the other side of the table. And so we're going to have 1 times 24, which is 24. And then the negative 11. And if we know anything about that, negative 11, you're gonna need 2 negatives. So something that matches negative 11, but also multiplies to equal 24 is negative 8 and negative 3. And then you'll go, that'll equal negative 11. So we'll go here. And we're gonna split negative 11, so it'll be x squared minus 8x minus 3x plus 24 equals 0. And then we're gonna group these. So we're gonna divide them into 2 parts, and then we're gonna factor. So x will go out of this one, and then we'll have an x left, and then a negative 8 left. And then it'll be plus 3, negative 3. And then x minus 8 equals 0. And these two match. And then you'll do these. And then it'll be x minus 3 and x minus 8 equals 0. And then you'll be left with x equals positive 3 and positive 8. And that is your answer. So we'll do 10.
Drop a sticky note if you want.
Squared plus 11x equals 6. So we're gonna put the 6 on the other side. So then it'll be 10x squared plus 11x minus 6 equals 0. And so we're gonna do the same thing with the AC method. We'll do 10 times negative 6, which is negative 60. And then it'll be 11. So then if you think about what multiplies to get negative 60 and what adds up to get 11, and that'll be 4 and 15, or negative 4 and 15. So then we're gonna go down, and we're gonna do 10x squared minus 4x plus 15x minus 6 equals 0. And we're going to divide it up again. And we will get 2x factored out, and that'll leave us with 5x minus 2. And then we're going to factor this one and get 3 out and get 5x minus 2. And they equal each other. And then these ones we'll put in another parentheses and get 2x plus 3 and 5x minus 2 equals 0. And then you will be left with x equals negative 3/2 and x equals 2/5. And that is your answer.
All right. Any questions on this page? All right. Go ahead and scroll up. How about this page? All right, go ahead. Oh, 42. Works best if you move it with your finger. That works.
6 squared minus 30x minus 180 equals 0. So we're going to use the quadratic formula, and we will do x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So then we will have x equals 30 because the negatives will cancel, making it positive, plus or minus negative 30 squared minus 4 times 3 times 180 equals 0. All over 2 times 3. So we'll have x equals 30 plus or minus.
I'm still putting in the right rules. Okay. It's gonna be that. Over 6.
3060 over 6 equals 0.
Just run it to like the third.
And then the square root of 3060 is rounded up to 55.317. Okay. And then once you do all of that, you can put all of that in your calculator. And you will get 14.219. That's for the 30.
Yeah, 30 plus
yeah.
55.
That's for the 30 plus, and then for the negative 30 is negative 4.2195. And those will be your answers.
Yeah, so just make sure that when you're doing this, make sure you do the 30 plus, like the plus operation and also the minus operation. Are you still doing 3.2 or?
I didn't go into this in the
Okay, cool.
packet.
You're good. Okay. All righty, what's up, guys? So, okay. Anything here? Okay, a lot of this is just like, okay, the discriminant is what's under the radical, okay? So it's like whenever we were calculating what was under the radical, like up here, this is our discriminant, okay?
First one, we're at -30 squared.
Well, yeah, whatever's under the radical, so like right here. All that stuff. It's just asking, okay, is it positive or negative?
Or 0.
Or 0, okay? So I'm gonna keep on scrolling. Yeah. Okay. What about this one? We can probably only do one on this one. So. $63. Okay, the flight of a ball. If a ball is thrown upward at 96 feet per second, okay, from the top of a building that is 100 feet high, the height of the ball can be modeled by S of t equals 100 plus 96t minus 16t squared feet, where t is the number of seconds after the ball is thrown. How long after the ball is thrown is the height at 222 feet? So, okay. Thank you. So it's saying, okay, I've got, oh, I'm moving. I've got S of t equals, where are we at? 100 plus 96t minus 16t squared. Okay, this is my feet. It's wanting where the height, it's wanting where this equals 228. So here's what I'm thinking. We do this. Okay, so I'm going to pretend that there is a plus 0 there. And I'm going to subtract this 228. So I will get negative 128 plus 96t minus 16t squared. I'm going to rewrite this up here so we don't have any confusion, okay? So I'm going to get negative 16t squared plus 96t minus 128 equals 0. And I'm going to use the quadratic equation on that, okay? So here's my A, my B, and my C. So I'm going to have negative B, so it's going to be negative 96 plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2 times negative 16. So it's going to be negative 32. Hang on a second. Okay. Under the radical. So under the radical, I'm going to have, I'm going to zoom in here. Negative 96 plus or minus the square root of 1024 over negative 32. Okay. All right, lovely. So the square root of 1024 is 32. We don't need you anymore. Get out. Okay. 32 over negative 32. So my solutions here are going to be, we have to still solve them. They're going to be negative 96 minus 32 over negative 32. And x equals negative 96 plus 32 over negative 32. Okay. So this one is going to be 4.
This one will be 2.
No.
Oh, wait, no.
You're good. And this one will be 2. So we know, okay. So after how long after the ball is thrown is the height 228 feet? So the deal about this graph is it's gonna look like this. not like that. It's gonna look like this, right? So, okay, say 228 right here. It hits that 2 times, right? So your answer would be after 2 seconds and then 4 seconds. So after 2 seconds, it would hit 228, and then it would hit 228 again at 4 seconds. Okay, so I'm gonna move on for the second time. Everyone okay on that though? Before we keep on scrolling. Awesome. Let's keep going. So. Okay. Do you wanna look at this one? No pressure.
Oh, chapter 6.
Chapter
The
6.
toolbox, yeah,
You want me to go ahead and move on to that?
she can do that one.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead on that one if you want, or if Madison wants to.
Okay. Do you want to?
So you just give me 5. We've only got 4 in the rest.
Yeah, we don't have much.
All right, so do we have any questions about this page, 1 through 7? Not number 5 and. All right, so we're gonna move on. Are there any questions about page 21? All right. What about this page? Do we have any questions about these sections? All right. Oh, 26. All right, so. So for 26, we have 4 times the square root of 2x minus 3 equals 36. So first we want to get this, this radical by itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to divide by 4 on both sides. And then so now we're going to have 2x minus 3 equals, and then 36 divided by 4 is 9. And so in order to get rid of this square root, what we're going to do is square both sides. And so that's going to cancel out. And what we're going to be left with is 2x minus 3 equals, and then we're going to have a plus or minus. No, equals, thank you, 81. And so now just finishing this off, we're going to have plus 3. So 2x equals 84 over 2. So x is going to be 42. All right. And 23. All right, so for 23, we have 3 times the 4th root of x equals 12. So just like the last one, we want to get this root by itself first. So we're going to divide by 3 on both sides. We're going to be left with the 4th root of x equals 4. And in order to get rid of this root, we're going to raise this to the power of 4, both sides. So that's going to cancel. And we're going to have x equals 4 to the 4th. Calculator. 256. All right. Any more questions? 29. So if we have time at the end, we can come back to number 29. If not, you can feel free to stop by the tutoring center. We can go over it. Because we have to move on, but like I said, we can either go over it at the end or you can come into the tutoring center and we would be happy to help you out. All right, any questions about this section? All right. So 3.4. Take over.
No, we do 1 through 4. Because 5 through 13.
I'll do a couple. Okay, guys, so I'm gonna go over a couple here. So is there any like 1 through 4 that you have questions on? Because the rest you kind of have to graph, and we would be, like I said, we'd be glad to show you that at the MSTC, but alrighty, so 4.
Ooh, pick one between 4 and 2.
Okay, 4 and 2. Let's do 4. Let's do 4. Okay, so it's saying find the value of f of -1. Scroll to the top. It's saying, that's perfect. Find f of -1 and f of 3. That's not how you write that. Yeah, so the trick to this is finding out which equation you plug it into, right? So I'm looking at, okay, f of -1, it says if x is less than 3, or if x is greater than or equal to 3. So I know that -1 is not greater than or equal to 3, so I'm just gonna plug it into this one. So if I plug -1 into 3 times -1 plus 1, that's gonna give me -3 plus 1, and that's gonna give me -2. So f of -1 is gonna be -2. Now, on part B, I can see that, okay, 3 is definitely not less than 3. 3 is greater than or equal to 3. So I'm going to plug it into this equation. 3 squared is 9. Okay. And that would be your answer. All righty. Any here? All right, so
Pick one,
21.
because it has a fraction, which makes it scary.
Oh, yeah, okay. 21. Well, 20 would be easier. Okay, so for the sake of time, I'm gonna go over 20, okay? But, but the same process follows, okay? So 20, so sorry. We've got 2x minus 5. The thing about absolute value equations is that I have to set it equal to a positive answer and a negative answer. So really, I'm gonna have 2x minus 5 equals 3, and then 2x minus 5 equals -3, okay? So if I solve for x on these, I'm gonna have 2x equals 8, 2x equals +2. If I solve for x, divide by 2 on both sides, I'm gonna get x equals 4 and x equals 1. So remember, with absolute values, you have to set it to a positive answer and a negative answer, okay? Cool, awesome. So moving on. Okay. Either one of you want to tackle this? Sure. All righty, so I'm gonna hand it on over to Maddie.
All right. So do you guys have any questions about this page 1 through 6 or number 9? Number 9. All right, find the equation of the quadratic function whose graph is a parabola containing the points -1, 6, 2, 3, and 3, 10. All right, so we have -1, 6, we have 2, 3, and we have 3, 10. All right, so we're gonna use this equation that we know. We know that y equals ax squared plus bx plus c is true for parabolas, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna plug in each of these points into this equation so we can find A, B, and C. So for the first one, for -1, 6, we're gonna get y equals, not y equals, we're gonna plug in that 6 for y. So we're gonna get 6 equals A times -1 squared plus B times -1 plus C. So solving this out, we're gonna get 6 equals A minus B plus C. And then for 2, 3, when we plug that in, we're gonna get 3 equals A times 2 squared plus B times 2 plus C. And that's gonna give us 3 equals 4A plus 2B plus C. And then for that last point, we have 3, 10. And we have 10. So then we're gonna have 10 equals A times 3 squared plus B times 3 plus C, which is gonna give us 10 equals 9A plus 3B plus C. So now we have 3 of these equations and we have 3 variables that we have to solve for. So what we're gonna do is we are going to solve for one of these variables in one of these equations. So for this first equation, we're gonna solve for A so that we can substitute in the different variables for A. So if we're given 6 equals A minus B plus C, if we add B to both sides, we'll get 6 plus B equals A plus C, and then we're gonna subtract C from both sides. And so we're gonna have 6 plus B minus C equals A. And so looking at the second equation, we can now plug in this for A. So now we're gonna have 3 equals 4, and then instead of an A, we're gonna plug in the 6 plus B minus C, and then plus 2B plus C. And so then we're gonna have 3 equals 4 times 6 is 24 plus 4B minus 4C plus 2B plus C. So we're gonna have 3 equals 24. And then we're gonna combine like terms. So we have a 4B plus 2B. So we're gonna have a 6B. And then a negative 4C plus C is gonna give us a negative 3C. And then we're gonna do the same thing with the last equation. So we're gonna plug in that 6 plus B minus C for that A in this last equation. So we're gonna have 10 equals 9 times 6 plus B minus C. And then we're still gonna have the plus 3B plus C to finish out that equation. And so simplifying this, we're gonna get 10 equals 54 plus 9B minus 9C plus 3B plus C. And simplifying this even more, we're gonna have 10 equals 54, and then we have a 9B plus 3B, so that's gonna give us a 12B. And then we have a minus 9C and then a plus C, so that's gonna give us a minus 8C. And then for each of these, we can get the B and C's by themselves. So going back to this equation, we can subtract 24 from both sides. And 3 minus 24 is 21. So we're gonna get a negative 21 equals 6B minus 3C. And for this one, subtracting 54 from both sides, it's gonna give us a negative 44 equals 12B minus 8C. So now we have a system of equations. So we're gonna use this one and this one. And we can set that up. Negative 44 equals 12B minus 8C. And then we have a negative 21 equals 6B minus 3C. And then, so we need to match up either the B or C, right, to cancel one of those out. And I'd say the easiest is probably doing B. So we can multiply this bottom equation by -2. And so now we're gonna have -44 equals 12B minus 8C. And this bottom equation is gonna be, so we have a 2 times a -21, which is gonna give us 42. And then the 6B times the -2 is gonna give us a -12B. And then the -2 times the -3C is gonna give us a +6C. And so these B's are gonna cancel out. And now we have a -44 plus 42, which is gonna give us a -2. So we have a -2 equals, and then we have -8C plus 6C is gonna give us a -2C. And then dividing by -2, we have C equals 1. And then going down into the next page, we have, we're gonna plug in that C equals 1 back into one of the equations. So we're gonna use -44 equals 12B minus 8C and plug in that 1 for C. So we're gonna have 12B minus 8 times 1. So now we're gonna have -44 equals 12B minus 8. Adding 8 to both sides, we have -44 plus 8.
Yeah.
Equals 12B. And then dividing by the 12, we have B equals -3. And then using this equation that we found up here, where we have A equals 6 plus B minus C, we're gonna plug in those B and C values that we have, and we're gonna have A equals 6 plus that -3 minus, we said 1. So we have A equals 6 minus 3 minus 1. So A equals 2. And so plugging that back into our original equation, we have Y equals 2x squared minus 3x plus 1. So this was quite a long one. But we got there.
23 minutes left, so go ahead and just skim through.
All right, so yeah, we're gonna start just skimming through the rest.
A lot of this is calculator stuff, guys.
Yeah, so graph the points. So yeah, this is calculator stuff. Out of the toolbox. So for these, you can also use your calculator to solve by graphing. Same with this. And a lot of this stuff is stuff that we've already gone over.
I do want to say though, that remember when you're solving for inequalities, if you divide or anything by a negative
Or multiply.
or multiply by a negative, flip the signs. Okay? If you divide or multiply by a negative, flip the sign in inequalities, not regular equations, but in inequalities. Okay.
All right. So let's keep going. So now we're at chapter 6.
Do we have any questions here?
Keep scrolling.
Stop, you can stop on that page if you want to say, ask if there's questions.
Do we have questions here?
Okay,
All right, so 23. This is gonna be another long one. We'll try to get through it. So we have x squared plus x over x squared minus 5x plus 6 times x squared minus 2x minus 3 all over 2x plus 4, and then divided by x cubed minus 3x squared all over 4 minus x squared. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flip this. So instead of dividing by this fraction, we're gonna multiply by its reciprocal. So writing this all back out again, we're gonna have x squared plus x over x squared minus 5x plus 6 times x squared minus 2x minus 3 over 2x plus 4. And then, like I said, instead of dividing by this fraction, we're actually going to multiply by its reciprocal. So we're going to flip that fraction. So we're going to have 4 minus x squared over x cubed minus 3x squared. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to multiply it all out. So we're going to have x squared plus x times x squared minus 2x minus 3 times 4 minus x squared all over x squared minus 5x plus 6 times 2x plus 4 times an x cubed minus 3x squared. So is that for the top? Okay. Okay, so we're gonna multiply these out first. So we're gonna have an x to the 4th minus 2x cubed minus 3x squared. And then we're gonna multiply this x out, and we're gonna get a plus x cubed minus 2x squared minus 3x. And that still needs to be multiplied by the 4 minus x squared. And that's all over. And then we can start multiplying this out. So we're gonna get the x squared times the 2x is gonna give us a 2x cubed. And then we're gonna get the plus of 4x squared. And then we're gonna multiply this negative 5x out. And we're gonna get a minus 10x squared minus 20x, and then we're going to multiply this 6 out, and we're going to get a plus 12x plus 24, and then we still have to multiply by this x cubed minus 3x squared. And then we're going to do all of this again, multiplying each one of these out. Do you still want to finish through, or now that we went through the concept?
No, that's good.
All right, so it's gonna be the same concept when you multiply these two parentheses by each other, and same with the bottom. You're just gonna multiply all of these, and you're gonna FOIL it out. So you're just gonna take this first term and multiply it by every term in the other parentheses, and then same for this other term, then you're gonna do the same thing. So it's the same concept, just with a lot more terms. All right, so now we're gonna move on. Are there any questions about this page? All right. Any questions about this page? All right. So now we're gonna move on to 6.1. What do you guys want to take over?
It's all
Oh, graphing.
It's pretty much.
All right. So we're gonna scroll through, because most of this is all graphing problems. So if you guys have any questions about these,
Pull up, go
You
back.
can go up to this one.
please.
To show them that
Show them.
information I've got summarized.
I got you. Good. You wanna go through that?
You don't have to go through it blow by blow, just mention to them it's there.
So for these ones, you just want to make sure, we're just going to go through both of them kind of.
No. Just point out the notes I pulled to help them with the
Okay.
general concepts. That's all I wanted.
Got it.
That's from the textbook.
So if it starts on the left, it's positive, and it starts on the right, it's negative. And then if it's down, you're gonna have a negative, and then also for positive, if it's up.
Also, this is in your textbook, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so this is in your textbook. So before your exam, I would take the time to go over this stuff. Come to the MSTC if you don't understand it. But yeah, I would just make sure you look over that kind of stuff.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I forget how much of this is graphing.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Here's something.
Over 6.3. That's
It's still calculated.
it's still, that's 6.3, isn't it? So if you wanna
So tell them that.
go check that.
So all of this is still calculator problems. So if you guys still have questions about any of these pages, please feel free to come by the tutoring center and we can help you out.
This one though, that you can take
If you
questions.
wanna go.
Do you have any questions on this page? The 1 through 4? Any questions here?
Try to zoom so they can see the whole page. There we go. Roll it up just a little bit. Number 10. All right, great.
Four minus 3x cubed plus 2x squared. equals 0.
Just go for it.
Pull up the x's first.
Let's make this first. But you can put it squared.
We'll plot the x squared, and that'll leave us with x squared minus 3x plus 2 equals 0. And then we can factor this one even more. And it'll be x squared minus 2, x minus 1 equals 0. And then we can do these, x minus 2 equals 0, and then x minus 1 equals 0. And then we'll root that, but it'll just be 0. And then add 2 to that and get x equals 2. And then add 1 on this one and get x equals 1. And those are your x's.
So any others on that page? Just go ahead and ask them.
Do you have any others on this page?
17.
All right, we're gonna add 8 first and get 1/2 x to the 4th equals 8.
Keep going.
And then we'll divide by 2. Since it's a fraction, you'll do the opposite. And then divide 2 on that side, and then you'll get x to the 4th equals
16.
oh, 16.
Hmm?
Still multiply by 2.
It's multiplied by 2, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's 16.
Okay, yeah.
16.
Yeah.
Oh, it's-
Yeah, make sure that they know you don't divide by 2.
Okay.
Make sure you know because it's 1/2, you multiply by 2.
Yeah, just clean that up for them a little bit.
Since it's 1/2, you'll multiply by 2, so then it'll be 16, and then this, you'll find the 4th root, and that is 2.
There we go.
And that's your answer.
Okay, that one you can pass off.
Yep.
All right, does
Okay.
anyone have any questions over the last couple of pages? And if not, if there are questions you'd like to see on previous pages, please indicate the page number and the question number. If you don't have any further questions, then you're free to head out. This recording will be posted on the STEM Center for Excellence website tomorrow. I've dropped that website link in the chat. We appreciate everyone who's come, and if you have more questions, please drop those in the chat. We'll be happy to answer them for the next 9 minutes. All right, 39. I knew the box was gonna happen.
Yep.
Right here. Let's look at it, why don't we? Striking a box spots in the form by cutting a square out of each corner.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Nope.
Suppose the piece of tin is 18 inches by 18 inches and each side of the square is cut out. Okay. So. From the height of the box. I guess.
You might definitely need to put some.
Yeah. That's it. My question. Okay.
Blank.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Thank you. You're like, this one's good. I'm like, okay, go for it.
Okay, so let's see, write an expression for the height of the box that is constructed. So if this little bit that we're cutting out means that these pieces get folded up, then that height of the box is just gonna be X, right? So for A, the height is just gonna be X. For B, write an expression for the dimensions of the base of the box that is constructed. So, okay, 39, and first we have A, which the height equals X, and then for B, the dimensions of the base of the box. So if the base of the box is just gonna be this square, then the dimensions for the base is gonna be whatever this little piece is left over from these boxes being cut out. Okay, so if we're starting off with 18, what is it, 18 inches? Yeah, so we're starting out with 18 inches, but then we're gonna be missing pieces on both sides. So we're gonna call these X. So for the length, we're gonna have 18 minus 2X. Does everybody see that? Because we're starting off with the length of 18 inches and then we're cutting off 2 pieces of size X from both sides. And then same for the width. We're gonna have, since it's the same thing, we're gonna have another 18 minus 2X. So then for C, use the formula volume equals length times width times height to find an equation that represents the volume of the box. So the volume is just gonna be each of these pieces multiplied by each other. So we're gonna have an X, and then we're gonna have an 18 minus 2X, and then we're gonna have another 18 minus 2X. So D, use the equation that you constructed to find the values of X that make V equal 0. So now what we could do is we could set each of these equal to 0. So we could either have X equals 0, 18 minus 2X equals 0, and then this one would be the same thing as this first one. So solving this out, we would have negative 2X equals negative 18, and then divide by 2, we have X equals 9. So the volume would equal 0 if either X equals 0 or X equals 9. And then E, for which of these values of X does a box exist if squares of length X are cut out and the sides are folded up? Do you understand that question?
I'll read it. X, does a box exist if squares of length X are cut out and the sides are folded up? Okay, so I'm thinking like squares, perfect squares. It's like values from part D.
Well, it's talking about like these squares being cut out.
Yeah. So for which of these values is of X does a box exist?
Which I'm assuming it's talking about the X values from D,
Yeah, so I mean,
but neither. Oh, the answer is neither. Because so if we don't cut out any pieces from this. Here, yeah, we're gonna erase this real quick. If we don't cut out any pieces from this box, then we're still just gonna have a square, which we cannot make a box out of. And on the other side, on the other hand, if we cut out squares of 9 inches on all 4 of these corners, we cut out, then there would be nothing left to make a box. So that is why the answer is neither. All right, do we have any other questions? Any page, any number, just let us know.
Earl said thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome, Earl.
Thank you.
Did that all make sense? I hope so.
Okay.
All right, with 3 minutes left, do you guys have any other questions?
I just have to today, so.
Okay, if not, I guess we're gonna call it an evening. Thank you all so much.
All right.